There's one weird thing in NASA's mission schedule. The two newest probes will go to explore Venus in 2029 and 2031. And at the same time, the unique and very promising Trident mission to the most unexplored world in the solar system is listed as canceled. In 2038, it was supposed to shed light on the gloomy cosmic realm of Neptune, but now we'll have to wait for a similar flight right up to 2049. That's if NASA doesn't change its mind again. But why do scientists keep postponing the flight to Neptune? It's definitely not a matter of significant distance, because NASA's New Horizons spacecraft even visited the more distant Pluto back in 2015. Is NASA afraid to discover something so incredible on or around Neptune that it'll change our understanding of the entire solar system? Maybe even extraterrestrial life. Neptune is full of mysteries that would make no sense if they weren't absolutely real. So why is Neptune covered with such a veil of secrets? It can't be found on any old map of the starry sky. Babylonian astronomers in ancient times were considered the best, but even they knew only 6 of the current 8 planets. The first ice giant, Uranus, could still somehow be seen through an ordinary telescope, and only William Herschel succeeded in this at the end of the 18th century. But Neptune is 1.5 times further than Uranus. It revolves around the Sun at a distance of 4.5 billion kilometers. Its orbit is 30 times wider than that of Earth. So the ice giant makes one rotation in only 165 years. It turns out that it's so far away and moves so slowly across the sky that even Galileo Galilei, who was incredibly lucky to see Neptune twice against the background of Jupiter's moons in 1612, mistook it for a dim star. The legendary astronomer couldn't even imagine that there could be another planet at such a distance from Earth. But in the end, Neptune was discovered just thanks to the power of imagination. By 1846, Uranus had just completed its first rotation around the Sun since its discovery. And French astronomer Urbain Le Verrier noticed something inexplicable in its movement. It was as if some massive celestial body kept slowing down Uranus with its gravity. Le Verrier sat down for the calculations and a few months later pointed to the possible location of the new planet in the night sky. However, most colleagues didn't take him seriously. It didn't fit in their heads that it was possible to discover a massive planet with just the help of calculations. Fortunately, researchers from Berlin University had a different opinion. And on the night of September 24th, 1846, they discovered a new planet just at that spot where the French astronomer had pointed. At first, they wanted to name it after him, but then today's maps of the solar system would look pretty awkward. As a result, scientists decided to settle on Neptune in honor of the Roman god of waters and seas. Now, this seems logical given the planet's deep blue color, but it was actually a coincidence. Indeed, for a century and a half, no one had been able to see Neptune's surface from Earth. When NASA's Voyager 2 probe approached the gloomy ice giant in August of 1989, scientists didn't expect to see anything special. At such a huge distance from the Sun, where it turns into a dim star, they expected to find an inert frozen ball. But instead, they saw a surprisingly active world with hurricanes dispersing giant clouds in a big dark spot of unknown origin. After the monotonous and calm Uranus, Neptune looked like something incredible. And even more so, no one thought Voyager 2 would discover 5 new satellites of the ice giant at once and film the hypothesized ice rings. But since this NASA spacecraft flew further into the depths of space, no other Earth ship has visited that region. However, in 2022, Neptune threw a surprise. Thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, astronomers unexpectedly saw dust lanes in addition to ice rings, which made Neptune look like Saturn. Everything points to the fact that we know catastrophically little about this distant and mysterious world on the outskirts of the solar system. But can scientists be hesitant to send a new mission because they don't want to remind the public that they have no idea where Neptune even came from? Why didn't Neptune form just where we found it? From the planetary scientist's point of view, it's either too big or too small to occupy its current orbit. depending on how exactly it appeared. Gravitational calculations have shown that Neptune has a mass of 17 and something times more than that of Earth. Approximately 1/5 of it is concentrated in the silicate nickel-iron core. In fact, a rocky planet is hidden inside Neptune. That planet is a little larger than our Earth, with huge layers of various gases, mainly hydrogen and helium, on top of it. Most likely, Jupiter has a similar structure, but at the same time, it weighs like 318ers, which is 18 times heavier than Neptune. At first, planetary scientists didn't see anything unusual about all of this. Jupiter formed in the middle part of the protoplanetary disk, which was richest in light gases, and the farther from the Sun, the less material it needed. Accordingly, Saturn weighs as much as 95 Earths, and Uranus 14.5. But wait, if that's the case, why is Neptune, which is 2.5 times farther away, suddenly turned out to be significantly heavier than the previous planet? If it formed in the solar system's outskirts, it should be at least twice as light as Uranus. Therefore, more and more scientists are inclined to the version that Neptune must have appeared much closer to the Sun, perhaps in the vicinity of the current orbit of Saturn. However, then some gravitational cataclysm threw it into the backyard. Simulations show that young Jupiter could have done a similar trick. It got so close to Saturn that their orbits resonated and pulled apart dramatically, pushing Uranus and Neptune far away in the process. There's only one problem. In such a dangerous dance, the most distant planet probably had to fly out of the solar system and become a rogue planet. This means Neptune was either incredibly lucky, or it wasn't the farthest one at all. I guess you didn't expect to hear about hypothetical Planet X in a video about Neptune. However, one theory claims that during this orbital dance, the ice giant brutally pushed its partner away from the solar system, and only due to this, it managed to retain its position. But this story about the origin of Neptune requires so many coincidences at once that scientists are considering alternatives and much more intriguing versions. The classic model from the formation of giant planets resembles a slow wrapping of cotton candy on a stick. This is the accretion of gas around a solid core, which can continue for millions of years. However, for Jupiter to gain such an impressive mass in this way, it would take much more time than there was free gas in the young solar system. Scientists are trying to explain this discrepancy using the disk instability model. In it, the protoplanetary disk cools very quickly and produces huge clots, which become gas giant planets within a few thousand years. It's like not waiting for cotton candy to be wrapped around a stick, but instead pulling a big lump of melted sugar right out of the tank. This method perfectly explains not only the size of Jupiter, but also the orbit of Neptune. But it still leads to a contradiction. If the ice giant really formed due to this instability of the protoplanetary disk, it would be much more massive than it is now, possibly even reaching the level of Saturn or more. In a desperate attempt to save this theory, American astronomer Alan Boss proposed an even more surprising one. According to his theory, Neptune was forcibly stripped of its mass. A massive blue star like Sirius flew by the solar system and simply blew off half or more of the gas from both Neptune and Uranus. Who knows, maybe it stole Planet X along with it. And although it's already proven that small stars fly by in the vicinity of the solar system about every 50,000 years, a more massive alien star would hardly affect the ice giants exclusively. A large star would obviously sweep the Kuiper Belt, which begins just beyond the orbit of Neptune and contains many dwarf planets. But what if, in this whole story, the alien star was Neptune itself? In 2012, scientists at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics calculated that the billions of stars in our galaxy could, at some point, capture at least one rogue planet from interstellar space and make it part of their system. This is how some astronomers prefer to explain giant exoplanets in such orbits that are too far away. Such a formation is just impossible according to known methods. Thus, Neptune could have been formed in an alien star system and then traveled for millions of years in the darkness of space until it was finally captured by the gravity of the Sun. This means this ice giant could be from a truly alien world where our usual ideas about planets don't apply. If Neptune is actually an exoplanet that accidentally flew into the solar system, that would explain its extremely anomalous structure. Remember the mysterious Great Dark Spot photographed by Voyager 2 in 1989? It was larger than Earth, and scientists were eager to study it in more detail. However, when NASA sent its new Hubble Space Telescope to Neptune 5 years later, there was no trace of the strange formation in the atmosphere. But in 2018, that same Hubble spotted a new giant spot not far from the North Pole of Neptune. And 2 years later, a smaller formation appeared nearby, which scientists nicknamed the Dark Spot Junior. It looks like an unknown form of alien life is living and breeding on Neptune, like giant colonies of microbes. They could cover many square kilometers of the seabed on Earth, so don't they just have somewhere to roam on the much larger Neptune? Scientists don't seriously consider such a theory. According to their version, dark spots on the surface of Neptune are nothing more than megastorms, like the Great Red Spot on Jupiter. But if there are ammonia compounds that color it on Jupiter, on Neptune it's basically frozen methane crystals at a temperature of minus 200 degrees Celsius. They're excellent at absorbing red rays and are thought to be responsible for the overall blue color of the planet. The giant anticyclone appears darker as it lifts many more crystals from deep within the atmosphere. Logically, this storm on icy Neptune should be much slower than on the larger, hotter Jupiter. But either way, there's little logic on Neptune. In fact, along with the edges of Neptunian storms, winds rush at speeds of up to 2,100 kilometers per hour, which is 1.5 times faster than the speed of sound and about 3 times faster than the currents in the most severe storms on Jupiter. But why is such activity even possible on the ice giant? Its traces are everywhere. Neptune radiates 2.5 times more heat into space than it receives from the sun. And as if things weren't already quite bizarre, scientists recently discovered that right in the middle of its 40-year warm season, Neptune doesn't heat up like any other planet, but cools down. All of this suggests that under the dense cover of Neptunian clouds, there's a certain planetary heat engine with its own extremely exotic operation mode. But what's it like? If NASA does send a mission to Neptune, it'll be equipped with a decent probe to study the atmosphere. Hiding under the clouds, it'll begin a long journey through its impressive thickness. From the poor amount of data that Voyager 2 was able to send, scientists concluded that the upper layer consists of hydrogen and helium with a bit of methane and hydrogen sulfide, and extends to a depth of 10 to 20% of Neptune's radius. Crossing such an atmosphere is like traveling to the very center of Earth, only not in solid rock, but in ever-condensing gases. For the most part, pitch darkness reigns here, occasionally interrupted by gigantic lightning of relentlessly raging thunderstorms. But this is just another consequence of Neptune's anomalous heat, whose source lies much deeper in the mantle. It's unlikely that on the way to it, any terrestrial probe will survive the incredible pressure of the lower layers of the atmosphere, 100,000 times stronger than those of Earth. The temperature rises accordingly, so that the mantle, judging by the heat given off by Neptune, is heated up to no less than 5,000 degrees Celsius. The same temperature reigns on the surface of the Sun. However, the Sun is a star, not a gas giant covered with ice. You've probably already imagined the Neptunian mantle as a thick layer of molten lava like on Earth, but it's not like that at all. In fact, this is a water-ammonia ocean with methane impurities, 1.5 of our planet's thickness. Hold on a second. How can the liquid water inside Neptune be several thousand degrees cold? The answer lies in the extremely high pressure that doesn't allow it to evaporate. Instead, it turns the mantle into an ocean of ionized supercritical fluid that has a number of poorly studied properties. One of them is increased electrical conductivity, which could explain Neptune's extremely strange magnetic field. It resembles a giant spider and extends into space, at least 35 radii of the planet itself. At the same time, it isn't oriented along its geographical poles, but the supercritical ocean of Neptune might be the hiding spot, not only for the source of this magnetic phenomenon, but also for the heat engine. To be more precise, this is a diamond gravity generator. In 2017, German researchers from the Helmholtz Institute in Dresden, using a powerful laser system, recreated the pressure of 1.5 million atmospheres, which is characteristic of the Neptunian supercritical mantle. Under such conditions, organic compounds like methane break down. Carbon, as the heaviest element, tends to settle down under the influence of gravity, but due to the incredible pressure, it condenses into diamonds right on the go. On Neptune, they can be up to 1 meter across, and their friction against the surrounding supercritical fluid creates a lot of excess heat. This makes the ice giant the most expensive planet in the solar system. If we remove the atmosphere and mantle, we could see a stone core fully covered with a layer of super giant diamonds. It sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Yet, it's precisely what the most consistent scientific theories about the Neptune structure look like. But scientists are puzzled not only by what lies deep inside of it. Objects around Neptune look like something out of science fiction. The Kuiper Belt, which is adjacent to the orbit of the ice giant, is just like the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, only 10 times wider and much less studied. Pluto is the most massive and well-known celestial body in this twilight zone, but far from the only dwarf planet. Back in 2002, a K-or object was discovered in the Kuiper Belt, a little over 1,100 kilometers in diameter. It resembles an enormous asteroid and quite possibly doesn't even have a spherical shape. Astronomers got a surprise when Hubble captured Waywat, a small satellite near K-or. Binary systems of such tiny celestial bodies are very rare, but even this isn't the strangest thing. While watching K-or slowly flying against the stars from 2018 to 2020, astronomers spotted a distant ring of debris within Waywat's orbit. It all looks very picturesque, but according to all calculations, it shouldn't exist in the first place. There was no way K-or would have been able to tear apart another, smaller celestial body at a distance 4 times its own diameter. But even if, by some miracle, it collected a ring of small debris from the Kuiper Belt, they would have long ago merged together into the second satellite of K-or. Now, scientists don't have any explanation for this phenomenon, but they believe the strange ring is somehow related to Waywat. Though, I have a better idea. What if scientists accidentally witnessed an artificial structure like a swarm of solar panels around a long-abandoned spaceship? Anyway, if you seriously set out to find aliens on the outskirts of the solar system, you should look for them much closer to Neptune. During a flyby of the ice giant in 1989, Voyager 2 also aimed its lenses at its largest satellite, Triton, which is only slightly smaller than Earth's moon. And although the device managed to capture less than half of its surface, even this was enough to puzzle scientists again. Despite the temperature of Triton being only 40 degrees above absolute zero, which makes it perhaps the coldest celestial body in the solar system, the diverse topography of the satellite indicates relentless geological activity. Apparently, it's provided by cryovolcanism, that is, eruptions of water, ammonia, and methane mixed with dust. Scientists managed to notice the multi-kilometer trails of Triton cryovolcanoes, which somewhat resemble terrestrial geysers. Though here, due to the extremely low gravity, their ejecta reaches space itself. All of this makes astrogeologists talk about the existence of an under-ice ocean on Triton, from which liquid escapes to the surface. It could well have been kept from freezing by the decay of radioactive elements in Triton's core. So along with Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus, Triton could be a great candidate for a quest for extraterrestrial underwater life. Quite possibly even the most promising one. After all, unlike similar satellites, Triton has an anomalous retrograde orbit. It rotates in the direction opposite Neptune's rotation direction. This means it did not form with the ice giant, but was accidentally captured by its gravity. Triton is a real alien from the Kuiper Belt and even from outside the solar system. What if this is a dwarf planet that initially belonged to another star, but when it flew near Neptune, Triton simply jumped into its orbit due to gravitational perturbations. At the same time, an analysis of the ice giant's other smaller satellites and its rings showed that the alien, during its jump, most likely crushed Neptune's more ancient natural satellite to make room for itself. And here's another anomaly of Triton: its powerful ionosphere, which is much stronger than that of other similar celestial bodies. And we get just a fantastic picture. Perhaps there's not just a dwarf wandering planet living in the orbit of Neptune, but a real arc of the civilization of underwater creatures whose installations hidden under the surface create an anomalous ionosphere. Maybe there are propulsion systems located on the unexplored half of Triton. This hypothesis doesn't seem to be that incredible, given that Houston Community College scientist Irina Romanovskaya described a very similar way of interstellar travel in her scientific paper. In her opinion, advanced extraterrestrial civilizations could use such wandering planets as colonization ships, and with their help, drift from star to star for millions of years. That's why I thought, if NASA's detected a strange signal from Triton confirming this version, the sudden cancellation of the Neptunian mission would no longer look so out of place. It might be a simple precautionary measure. Either way, mysterious Neptune deserves a closer study. Most importantly, because planets with similar features make up a third of all exoplanets we've discovered. And it may well turn out that James Webb will detect the first biomarkers in its atmosphere. And those indirect signs of alien life will be very different from ours. Just imagine giant stingray-like creatures that float in icy clouds and feed on colonies of microbes in the same way that terrestrial whales feed on oceanic plankton. Considering that no one really understands what Neptune is, such creatures might just live there. What do you think is the main reason for the constant delays of NASA missions to the ice giant?